Hi everybody, I'm going to try and speak a little bit louder and more into the microphone so that my audio levels are better for you. And if they are better than usual or worse than usual, won't you let me know? I've cranked up the volume on my iPhone, I've cranked it up on the headphones, and I'm going to speak a little bit more loudly and clearly to see if it helps everyone. If you have trouble with my audio, won't you please let me know, and let me know if you're using a Mac or a PC. That will help me as I troubleshoot what the mysterious audio problems are that I've been trying to work through on these videos. It could be, as someone suggested, that this microphone is just not as powerful, but there are people who are able to hear my videos just fine, and then there are others who simply are not. Like, it's not even they crank up the volume on everything and still can't hear it. So that is a significant issue. I'm going to watch and see if I can manipulate something or hear something in the edit as the sound processes when I upload the video to YouTube. It uploads automatically. I'm going to see if there's something I can do on the edit. I tried with the last video and I couldn't. Okay, let me dive in. I missed posting videos. There's stuff happening in the astro weather, but it didn't necessarily merit me jumping in and doing a video, except that I missed this process. So thanks to all subscribers and viewers and everyone who's been watching these and enjoying these. I missed doing them, and that was a really nice feeling. We just had the quarter moon. I'm doing this at around 6:45 p.m. Today is the 24th of July. And about 6:18 we had the quarter moon, which is the midpoint between the full moon, which we had on July the 16th, and the new moon that we're going to have on July the 31st. So the energies, the peaking of the full moon, lunar eclipse, gradually going to start to die out. Energetically, we're going to start to flatten. The energy is going to get lower as we head to the new moon on July the 31st. And we're at that middle point, so expect as the week rolls on, especially as you head towards the 31st, to lose steam, to feel like you're fighting yourself to get things done. That said, we've got another 3 or 4 days where we can strike a balance between closing out this last 28-day cycle that started on July the 2nd and getting ready for the next one that starts on July the 31st. But we still have a few days before things become gnarly and kind of flat and kind of confused, and we feel like we want to rest and we want to purge the last 28 days and we want to flatten out and we want to take a breather before the energy comes back again and we get that next flood of inspiration after the new moon on July the 31st. Also, please note that on July the 31st, Mercury goes direct. And this means that as we head towards July the 31st, particularly, I would say 27th, 28th, even starting the 26th, 27th, certainly by the 28th, until about August 3rd to 5th, is when we're going to feel the Mercury retrograde energy most intensely. I find Mercury retrograde energy when Mercury is going retrograde or then going direct. And it's going to be the going direct that's happening on the 31st. So not only do we have a new moon on the 31st, so the 48 to 72 hours before then, but especially the 48 hours before the new moon will start to get flat and energetically depleted. There'll be an emptying, but there'll also be Mercury retrograde direct shenanigans, traffic lateness, mental bizarreness, seeing a date on the calendar and thinking it's something else, or getting to the airport the day before you need to, and the dogs are barking. So I think we're going to be seeing some of this. I don't know. I don't know. They're chiming in and agreeing, I think, that the 31st is going to be a gnarly date. Do not expect, or maybe they're just listening to me talking outside or something else is disturbing. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Back to the video, Avi. So the bottom line is the 31st is one key date with the new moon and Mercury going direct on that date, or being stationary, going from retrograde stationary to direct. So again, expect the days as we lead up to it, starting about the 26th, 27th, 28th, certainly 29th, to start to become gnarly. And do not expect Mercury to pick up steam again till at least August the 3rd. If you have important decisions or contracts or things to sign, try to give it till August the 3rd, if not August the 5th, before you put pen to paper or before you make a major decision, if you can do so. If you can't, you can't. But if you can do so, try to give it till that time to really expect things to start rolling again. And there's a lot of pressure being put on this new moon on July the 31st, as if Leo season and the new moon in Leo on the 31st is going to bring us out of the eclipse madness and the Mercury retrograde madness. I don't think it will. I'm not pessimistic about the new moon, but I just don't think it will. Mercury's stationary on that day. And so I actually think that the month of August is going to be more stationary than we think. Not negative, just kind of pregnant pause. But I think that as we get to August the 5th, and certainly as we get to planets moving into Virgo, I've always maintained August 15th, thereabouts. It's as the planets move into Virgo this year that we're really going to start to see forward motion and forward movement and a feeling of, okay, the gates are opening and we can move forward again. The gates will start to open on the 31st. We'll really start to feel them more by the 5th. But it's not all systems go. And whatever happens at the time of a new moon imprints that energy on that 28-day cycle. So if Mercury is stationary on the day of the new moon and it is moving forward by the time the new moon happens, but barely, it might be a little bit, August might be a little bit like you're on a Ferris wheel and it's going backwards, and then there's that moment before it moves forward when we're just suspended in the air and our legs are dangling. And we're expecting it to move forward, but it doesn't. I have a feeling August is going to have some of that feeling, especially the first half of August. So just be prepared for that. I'm kind of not quite in agreement with sort of conventional wisdom on July the 31st moving us forward. That said, if you do have decisions to make or things to sign or contracts to put in place, or certainly avoid doing so or decisions to make, wait till August 3rd, wait till August 5th before you can do it. And if there are things that you're waiting to come to you, they might come by the new moon, they might come over the next few days, but it might be that more stuff becomes available to you after August the 3rd and August the 5th. The other thing as I give you these timelines is observe, even if you have the best of intentions to start something over the next week or to give something an energetic push, observe and see whether, even if you have the best of intentions, whether things just happen in such a way that you don't until after the 31st or the 3rd or the 5th. It could be that this next week is a great time to wrap up things. It could be that this next week is a great time to take action, but to take action on closing out activities related to this cycle that started on July the 2nd. Details. So if there is a contract or something you need to sign, this could continue to be a great time to go over things, wait for clarity to emerge. It won't till after August 3rd or 5th. Go over details, go over everything, pause, allow yourself to be confused. The confusion will only lead you to checking things again and again, which is a great way to use this time. Now, leading up to today, a couple of minor things. Mercury came into the sign of Cancer, which was very, very busy, has been very, very busy over the summer. We had the July 2nd new moon, which was also a solar eclipse in Cancer, and other planets had moved into Cancer, Mars first, then Mercury and the Sun. Mercury went through Cancer into Leo, and then went retrograde in Leo and is now retrograded back into Cancer, and I'll refer you to my last couple of videos on more details. But earlier today, Venus, which has been in Cancer, and Mercury retrograde met up. So one of my questions for you, really more from a trivia perspective, is over the past 3 or 4 days or 5 days, but leading up to today, have there been communications related to money and relationships? So if you look at your emails, you look at your phone calls, you look at your transactions, has there been an increase? Some of the contacts, some of the communications are there with people that have come back from the past to some extent, or who are related to your past. That doesn't necessarily always have to be the case, but the larger question is communications and transactions and a certain amount of technology time. Has it been devoted to financial endeavors or relationship endeavors? Could just be an interesting thing to ponder and think about. Mercury is going to continue to move back in Cancer till July the 31st. Then it goes direct, as we already covered, on the day of the new moon. Venus is going to continue to move forward, but then on September, I think they're going to meet up again in September. Interesting. I wonder what date in September. I'm going to check and see. September 20th? That's what strangely enough sounds right to me, but I could be wrong. I'm looking at my notes and seeing if I can get some clarity on that. I'm not going to sweat it right now. But irrespective, if the past 3 or 4, 5 days, communications related to matters of the heart, Venus, relationships, harmony in relationships doesn't only have to be romantic, any relationships and matters connected to money and the connection between money and relationships, if there's been some sort of communication or preoccupation or mental thinking or writing or use of technology or the phone to deal with monetary and relationship issues, that could be sort of part of this Mercury retrograde conjunct Venus process. Okay, since we have brought up Mercury retrograde, if we are to answer the question, what is the best way to make use of this time and the rest of this week as we head towards July the 31st, I'm going to refer you back to my last video, and I'll put a link to it at the end of this once I'm done processing this video. Even though planets are moving into the sign of Leo, the Sun moved into, Mars has been in Leo for a bit. It's currently in Leo and will remain in Leo till the middle of August. So wherever Leo is in your chart, a certain amount of preoccupation, it's giving you a certain amount of energy and confidence and boost and aggression and assertiveness in that part of the chart. It has been, while all these planets have been percolating in Cancer at the time of the eclipse on July the 2nd. The Sun moved into Leo a couple of days ago. Venus will move in here on the 27th. So even though planets are moving into Leo by the time of the 31st new moon in Leo, when Mercury will be stationary, the bulk of the planets are still sitting in the sign of Cancer and Capricorn, where the eclipses occurred. So that is still very much a part of our preoccupation. In addition, we can look at the new moon that occurred on July the 2nd as something that started a 28-day cycle, as new moons do. But you also need to look at the new moon solar eclipse in Cancer on July the 2nd as starting a slightly over 6-month cycle that ends on January the 10th of 2020, something I've mentioned in my previous videos. And other dates that are important to that are 2 months after July the 2nd, so September the 2nd, and 2 months before January the 10th, which would be November the 10th. In my last video, I also talked to you about the Mercury cycle, and I explained that on July the 21st, the planet Mercury retrograde met up with the Sun in Cancer just before the Sun was about to go into Leo and started a new Mercury cycle in Cancer. So not only do we have the Cancer eclipse that started on July the 2nd and all these planets still in it, Venus will clear it by the 27th, but a retrograde Mercury is still going to be here in Cancer till July the 31st. Then it's going to go direct, and it's not going to move into Leo till August the 11th. So till August the 11th, you've got a planet still cleaning up the July 2nd eclipse stuff. Then you've got the September 2nd date. Now, July the 21st, the Sun and Mercury retrograde met up and started a 4-month Mercury cycle. Essentially, this means that for the next 4 months, starting till November the 11th, November the 10th, November the 11th, November the 11th, we are going to be mentally preoccupied with and dealing with issues related to where the sign of Cancer is in our chart. So this Cancer eclipse is powerful for a variety of reasons. Next year, when we have the next Cancer eclipse, it's going to be more of a handoff eclipse. The eclipses in the second half of next year are handing off from the Cancer-Capricorn axis to the Gemini-Sagittarius axis. So next year's second half eclipse is going to be more of and moving out of Cancer and into Gemini. Okay? So this particular 6-month cycle we have is what we have to deal with and contend with and go through the gates and go through our hero's journey and try and grow and develop as much as we can within the sign of Cancer and wherever Cancer is in our chart, whichever house it occupies and whatever that house stands for. People who have my version of their charts in PowerPoint or Microsoft Word, go back to where Cancer is in your chart, take a look at it, and see what has been brewing since the middle of May, practically. And will continue to take up a certain amount of attention. So even though the planets are going to move out of Cancer, it doesn't mean that that energy, mentally, we're still going to be preoccupied with and dealing with whatever it is that we need to deal with. The time between July the 21st and July the 31st is time for us to scope out and define the nature of the projects and the tasks and the actions that we will be taking to contend with whatever it is that we feel is our problem statement. I'm being very corporate with all this stuff related to the sign of Cancer and where Cancer is in our charts. So the next 10 days, not even 10 days, the next week or so till we get to July the 31st, if you were to say, Abhi, what is the best way to use this time? I would say the best way to use this time is to reflect on what it is you think you need to walk through, vanquish, take on, grow in, develop in. Where is it that you're being asked to be led forward into, which will what will be good for your development, knowing where the sign of Cancer is in your chart and knowing what house it occupies. As I have mentioned in a previous video, sorry for the brief sales pitch, I will still offer 30-minute eclipse reading to people who know their birth time and date. So just there'll be an email address in the description box. Email me and I can let you know the rates and we can talk about whatever that is if you just want to know where the signs of Cancer and Capricorn fall in your charts. Outside of that, if you already have that information, and you can get copies of your chart for free online as well. They may be cut a little differently than the way I cut them in terms of houses, but pick your poison. Once you figure out where the sign of Cancer is in your chart, or whatever it is that's been brewing for you since the middle of May, but certainly July the 2nd, use your intuition, your wits, and determine what it is, or even just think about this. July the 21st to November the 11th, what do you want to tackle? What is feasible to tackle in about 4 months? It will have something to do with where the sign of Cancer is in your chart and what part of the chart it occupies. And right now, I want you to define the problem statement and do the work to identify what tasks need to be executed after July the 31st. From July the 31st till one other thing that is coming to me that is so interesting. The last video I did breaks down the entire Mercury cycle. I don't want to lose this thought that just came to me, this kind of slight epiphany that came to me, and I'm going to share it with you. I do these impromptu, so the last video I did has the full timeline and explains the Mercury cycle timeline. So Mercury retrograde to going direct now after it met up with the Sun on the 21st. Great time to define the problem statement related to the sign of Cancer and where Cancer is in the chart, which house, what topics it occupies, and start to take some tentative actions right now, because it's in taking some initial exploratory actions between now and the 31st that you'll really have a sense of what actions you really want to take after the 31st, okay? And then once Mercury goes direct again, until it meets up with the Sun, and those dates are all in that last video, and not only in the video, in the subject line, in the description box on YouTube, you'll find the dates there. So I'm going to let you look at the dates. Now my little epiphany moment. July 2nd, solar eclipse in Cancer. January 10th, lunar eclipse in Cancer. One cycle. 2 months before the January 10th date is November the 10th, which is important. And the Mercury cycle that started on July the 21st ends on November the 11th. 2 months before that eclipse. So this November 10th, 11th date could be quite important and quite significant. November the 11th, you're going to start a new Mercury cycle in Scorpio. We'll cover that at that point in time. But there's something to taking action and trying to complete something by November 10th and 11th that will be quite important this year. So pay attention to how fun that the 2-month anniversary of a lunar eclipse prior to the lunar eclipse, which I always look to. And because it's 2 months, there's going to be a full moon around that time. I don't have the exact, define your project related to the sign of Cancer. Refer back to my last video, get all those details, get that information, get those dates. The best way to use this time, I've already told you that as you head towards the 31st, the energy is going to get a little flat, a little gnarly, a little bit less energized. You're going to want to purge the last cycle. Fine, be patient, give your rest, purge the last lunar cycle. Use this time to get done with past things. And this project that you're going to be defining is going to be dealing with past things. It's going to be dealing with things that have slowly becoming clearer with regard to what it is that you're meant to go out and do, and is going to be such a big part of your lives for the next 6 months, even though the planets are moving out of Cancer gradually. So where is the sign of Cancer in your chart? What has been going on since May the 15th? What topics does it cover? And what is the project or the problem statement that you want to take on, that you want to complete, and what do you want to accomplish between July the 21st and November the 11th? Define it and start to take preliminary actions now, no matter what is going on energetically. By taking preliminary actions now, once Mercury goes direct on July the 31st, and as you head into August the 3rd or 5th, you will have a much clearer sense of what actions you need to take in order to accomplish whatever it is that you're meant to do. The July 2nd eclipse was an eclipse of leaning into an area that we're going to be asked to grow in and to, it's not an eclipse of release. These are the gates that we're meant to walk through. There's something here we're meant to take up, do, complete, achieve, grow, evolve in, and something that we're not entirely comfortable growing in. We're much more comfortable holding on to the things that we're meant to release because they've served us in the past and are no longer serving us. So the eclipses of release can be quite hard in that way. The eclipses of leaning into can be hard because we question our ability to take on and go on this hero's journey, whatever this hero's journey is for you. Is it something you need to deal with? Is it something you need to vanquish? Is it something that you need to put to bed? Is it something that you need to defeat? Is it something within yourself? Is it something that you need to take on? Is it what is the challenge? Why are you being asked? What has been building up over the past few years that you're being asked to walk through now or take advantage of now? And how can something related to this be defined and executed on so that it reaches some sort of a critical, important milestone by November 10th, November 11th, that then goes on to culminate by the time January 10th comes along of 2020? You will have a second go at this in the second half of next year, but by that time, the energies will really be petering out. This is the time. So, last quarter of the moon, Mercury going direct, July the 31st to new moon. Yes, there's going to be a dip in energies. Next 3 or 4 days, still a great time to continue to look at your to-do list and execute things. Not necessarily a great time to put down new things on the to-do list unless they're in preparation for being taken on and executed on after July the 31st, but especially August the 3rd and 5th. So nothing wrong with planning, nothing wrong with going over details, nothing wrong with going over things. Try to avoid putting pen to paper and signing contracts and making critical decisions till August 3rd, even better around August the 5th. Just see how things go, unless you have Mercury retrograde in your birth chart. And use this time to understand where the sign of Cancer is in your chart, or what it is you feel you need to take on and really do. And define that project and take some initial actions. It's only in taking these initial actions, it's like, you know what, I need a copy of this, or I need a copy of that, or I need to research this. It's only as you take these initial steps that you'll realize, oh, it's this person I need to contact and not this person I need to contact. Oh, I need to get new headshots. Oh, I need to do my resume. Oh, I think I'm going to get this printed here. Oh, but then you go there and it's closed, but there's somewhere else. It's not, the tasks are not going to get clear by just sitting and making a list of tasks. The tasks will actually become clear and more real once you actually start to execute. Once you start to take those first few steps, what path you're meant to take will become clearer. And right now you're identifying the actual steps you need to start to take after the 31st of July, but especially as we head into August 3rd and August 5th. Okay, I'm not going to repeat anymore. We're already at the 23-24 minute mark. But it can be an interesting and exciting time if you decide to take up the sword. And you're meant to. You're going to be forced to. Don't not contend with what you're... That will have, just as holding on to things that you're meant to release will have terrible consequences, really, not agreeing to walk through the gates that you're meant to walk through and dealing with and climbing the mountain that you're meant to climb, and you're wondering whether you have what it takes, or dealing with the rewiring the past conditioning around this and actually taking the actions to teach yourself and develop the confidence and experience the magic. That's what happens when it comes to North Node eclipses. Don't shy away from it, or the consequences might be pretty terrible too, again. So, okay, I will leave you with that. Yes, we're in a certain place with the lunar cycle, and yes, Mercury goes direct, but there's something larger afoot. And the fact that this Mercury cycle ends one day after the 2-month anniversary, for me, I'm going to be watching that November 10th and November 11th date. And I exhort you all to use this reflective time to define the problem you would like to solve in about 4 months. Ideally, it would be related to where the sign of Cancer is in your chart. and get cracking on it and take some initial steps, even if it means that as you're heading towards the 31st, it's like wading through molasses because you're so energetically depleted. But it's going to be in taking these steps and defining the problem and defining the tasks and starting to put pen to paper and identifying what you need to do that greater clarity will emerge regarding what the actual tasks really are. You think you need to call person ABC, but it may be that as you pick up the phone and call ABC, you realize you have to call DEF. You think you have to deal with Timbuktu, but you might realize that you have to go to Antarctica. I don't know, but that's what you need to know. And that's what this particular week is going to be really good for. Taking a machete, figuratively speaking, and starting to take the first steps to cut through the undergrowth on this path that you're meant to walk through that is grassy and once where, to quote a poet man. I will leave it at that. I don't know who this person is who's making these sounds. God bless them. Anyway, if you find this useful and helpful, please feel free to share the video, comment on it, like it, subscribe to my YouTube channel, click the bell icon so you can be notified of future updates whenever I do them. You'll get some sort of a notification depending on how you set up your notifications. My email address is in the subject line, not subject line, in the description box. Mercury is retrograde. Sometimes, even in this video, as I'm trying to talk, it's just like, what word is trying to come out? In the description box. So you can contact me if you want to make an inquiry for a reading and want to inquire about rates and stuff like that. And I will be in touch soon. Right now I'm planning to be in touch a little after the new moon on July the 31st. I like to do the videos after the new moon. I find that when I do the videos after the new moon, they get more traction. But a lot of people look for the videos before the new moon. So I have a feeling I will give in and do the video before the new moon. And I'm going to end it there. See y'all and try and get some rest as you head towards the 31st. Okay, thanks. Bye.